Karoti vachalam pangam langayate giram yatkripātamaham vande Shri-Gurum Dinatarinam Paramanandamādhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. So Hare Krishna to all the devotees. Welcome to our 14th session, 14th chapter today. Before we begin, I have a question for you. What is the meaning of faith? How can we understand? Because the Lord and the Shastras, they say we must have faith in anything, right? Even in the material world, we said we have to have faith. We have to have faith in science. If we did not have faith in science, then we would not be able to study. We would not be able to get our degrees, get certified, etc. What's the meaning of faith? Hare Krishna. Belief. Strong belief. Okay. Anybody else? What is the meaning of faith? Trust.
Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, faith in Krishna Mataji.
Yeah.
That is
Just
it's like
what does faith generally mean?
faith in Krishna is like, I surrender to Lord Krishna, to his
Mhm.
lotus feet, that, whatever I face the problems, right? It is, uh, just having a faith on the Lord Mataji, like surrendering to the lotus feet of the Lord Mataji,
Okay.
taking
So
his shelter, yeah.
very nice. And Bhashan Prabhu saying very staunch belief. Okay. So let's look at this pastime and let us see what we really think about faith. Secure. Yeah, that's nice. Take whatever it says as it is, whether in the material world or in the spiritual world. Okay. All right. Very good. Okay. So one day, Lord Shiva and Parvati Devi were talking to each other about faith. And Parvati Devi said to Lord Shiva, for the benefit of humanity, you've been carrying this river Ganga on your head. You received the waters of the Ganga from the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu onto your head. What is the statement that they say that if you take a bath in the Ganga, all your sins are wiped away? Correct? Doesn't matter what is the condition of the river Ganga, but if you take a bath in the river Ganga, all of your sins are wiped away. So Parvati Devi said, this is mentioned in the Shastras, but let us test it out. So she tells Lord Shiva, you lie down in that gutter, you appear weak and invalid, and I will come across as desperate, seeking help. So they are play acting now. So Lord Shiva is lying in a ditch, looking very weak and old and desperately needing help. And Parvati Devi is there, of course, not exactly as Parvati Devi. So they are by the river Ganges, and they see a couple of people have taken a dip in the Ganges, and they walk by Mother Parvati Devi, and Parvati Devi desperately pleads with them, see, my husband is really old, he's really weak. It's an emergency situation. Can you please pick him up from the gutter? He needs your help. And the Brahmana said, look, we just took a bath and we are pure. We don't want to contaminate ourselves. They just walked away. So a couple more people, Parvati Devi asked the same thing, and the same thing happened. People just declined to help. So then Parvati Devi thought, okay, let me try something different. So she saw a saint who had just taken a dip in the Ganges. And he walked past, and Parvati Devi begged and pleaded with him, please save my husband. But I must tell you one thing. You can help him as long as, my husband is very pure. He's never committed a sin in his life. Parvati Devi tells the saint, if you too have never committed a sin in your life, then you may please touch him and heal him, and that way he will get cured of his disease. And the saint said, "Are you mad?" and walked away. What was Parvati Devi's criteria? If my husband has never committed any sins, he's pure. So if you have not committed any sins, then you can touch him and pick him up. So one more saint comes by, and Parvati Devi says, "Please rescue my husband. He's been lying here for a long time. Nobody is helping. I'm desperate for help. But on one condition, my husband is very pure. He's never committed a sin in his life. If you have never committed a sin in your life, then you may please carry him and pick him up. But if at all you have committed any sin, you will immediately be burnt to ashes when you touch my husband." What do you think the saint's response was? Did he say, "Yes, I'll help you"? Or did he say, "No, sorry, I cannot help"? So Parvati Devi's request was, "My husband is pure. If you are pure, you can touch him and help him. However, if you're not pure, and if you touch him, because my husband is so pure, you will get burnt to ashes." Do you think the saint agreed to help or not? No, no, no. So the saint said, "No, I'm sorry, I cannot do this." No, okay. So our ordinary man was taking a dip in the Ganges. He came off the banks of the river, and he walked past Mother Parvati Devi, and Mother Parvati Devi pleaded with him. She said, "Can you please help my husband? My husband is so pure. But if you believe that you have lost all of your sins, and if you are sinless, you can help him. Otherwise, you will get burned to ashes. But I do need your help." So this man told Parvati Devi, "Why are you challenging my like this? Didn't you just see me take a dip in the Ganges? Don't you know that if one takes a dip in the Ganges, all their sins are wiped away? So please let me help your husband." And so this ordinary man who had taken a dip in the Ganges, and Parvati Devi had requested his help, he gets up and, you know, helps Parvati Devi's husband up. What can we learn from this pastime? Trust. Trust in what or in whom? Faith in? Yeah, faith. The Shastras say if you take a dip in the river Ganges, all your sins are wiped away. All those saints and Brahmins had taken a dip in the Ganges. So they should have had faith that they took a dip and they were clear of all the sins. They should have had no hesitation in helping Lord Shiva out of the ditch. But here was an ordinary person who had faith and who scolded Parvati Devi, saying, "How can you even talk like that? How can you say I'm full of sin? Can't you see I just took a dip in the Ganges?" So this is faith. So yesterday we were talking about how the Lord is there as Paramatma within each of us. And He's acting as an attorney. When you're in trouble with the law of the land, you need good legal counsel to get you out of trouble or to try to reduce your sentence, whatever it is. We will do our best. So the Lord as Paramatma is there to fulfill whatever desires that you have, provided that you have the credits associated with it. But chapter 13 begins with Arjuna asking questions about 6 terms: Prakriti and Purusha. We said Prakriti is Mother Nature. Purusha means enjoyer. So Purusha is always enjoying Prakriti. In this case, Jivatma, the Lord himself says, is exploiting Prakriti for his or her own means or ends for sense gratification. So the Jivatma thinks he is Purusha. He doesn't understand that he is the secondary enjoyer, because the primary enjoyer is the Supreme Lord. Then the other 2 terms we looked at is Jnana and Jnana. Krishna defines knowledge in 20 different terms. We looked at a few of them. The most essential of it is unmotivated, uninterrupted love for the Lord. That's the most essential, or rather the most important. The most essential to get there is to have a living guru that you are serving, Acharya Upasana, it says. Because without serving guru, you cannot get Krishna. Without Krishna, you cannot get guru. So that is jnana. Jnana is all of these items: humility, vinigraha, self-control, we talked about. So there is an interesting analogy used for humility, that a tree that is heavy with fruits, will its branches bend or stand straight? Definitely it will bend. That means the more knowledge that we acquire, the more humble we should become. That should be the result of knowledge, because the more knowledge that you gain, the more you recognize and realize how much you do not know. So humility means that the more you understand Shastra, or the more that you hear about the Lord and his pastimes, the more you understand that you really don't know who the Lord is. You know him, but you don't know him. There is still so much more to learn about the Supreme Lord. So jnana are these 20 items of knowledge that Krishna talks about. What is jnaya? Wisdom. Wisdom is to understand the difference between the body and the soul, and to understand the nature of the soul in comparison to the super soul. That the soul's position is to always be the servant of the super soul. The body is just a machine that should be used to serve Krishna. And here the body includes the physical body and the subtle body. Therefore, the acharyas say you can have all kinds of material accomplishments and material degrees, but none of that matters if you're spiritually illiterate. If you don't know Krishna, then you are considered illiterate. Because all of your literacy, you're going to leave behind in this life. You're not going to take your PhD with you. You're not going to take your conquests with you. You're not going to take your power with you. You're not going to take your wealth with you. The only thing you're going to take with you is whatever love that you have developed for Krishna. That will travel with you for the rest of your life until you get back to the spiritual world. So jnaya is understanding the difference between the body and the soul, and the relationship that the soul has with the super soul or Paramatma. And then Kshetra and Kshetrajna. Kshetra means field. The field is this body, and the field is also all of matter around us. So, who is the knower of this body? Kshetrajna means the person who knows this field. Remember, we looked at the farmer, the field, and the king, and we said the field is equivalent to the body, the farmer is equivalent to the soul, and the king is equivalent to the super soul. So we also discussed the farmer has a choice what kind of crop he wants to grow. He can grow any crops that are legally authorized and make a nice profit and have a good living. But if he decides to grow crops that are considered illegal, then he will be in trouble with the rulers. Similarly, the soul, as long as it's utilizing the body, provided the soul is acting as the master and not allowing the body to become the master, similarly, the soul is also making choices provided the mind is under control. So, either the body can be used to serve Krishna or the body can be used to serve the self. If the body is used to serve the self, then that is not a very good utilization of the gift. But if the body is used to serve Krishna, then that is considered to be the right use of that particular body, especially the body of a human being. What else did we talk about in the 13th chapter? These 6 terminologies, no? Jnana, Jnaya, Kshetra, Kshetrajna, and Prakriti and Purusha. That's what we talked about. So today we will look at chapter 14. So yesterday's single word summary was attorney. Who's your attorney? Paramatma. So you need Paramatma to guide you out of this prison. He is going to actually put forth a very strong case for you to get out of this prison. So he is going to recommend to Maya Devi that don't touch my devotee because, he is under special care. I am his legal counsel, so do not trouble him. So, but to get to Krishna, definitely one needs Guru. And we also discussed that non-violence means not just not to cause distress to other jivatmas, but to connect them to Krishna is the highest form of practicing non-violence. Is to give another person the spiritual knowledge that helps them connect to their Father, their Supreme Father. So we also looked at a shloka by Prahlad Maharaj where he was telling Narsimhadev that there are all these great personalities, but they go off into the forest. They're only interested in their own liberation. I don't fall into that same category. I'm very worried about all of my peers and all of the other jivatmas. Just like I have been benedicted with devotion to you, I want to give that same mercy to them as well. Because if I do walk into the forest, who's going to help the jivatma that is suffering? So hence Prahlad Maharaj says, I would rather preach. So I'm not here just to focus on my own liberation. I'm already liberated because I have you. But I'm worried about the other jivatmas. So that is what Prahlad says in that beautiful shloka, in the conversation that he has with Lord Narasimha. And in spite of all of this, we discussed him. So why is the Atma still suffering? That seems to be the predominant question for us. From the second chapter, that's been the question. That is because the Atma comes under the influence of Prakriti. And this Prakriti manifests itself in the form of the three gunas, which is Sattvagun, Rajagun, and Tamagun. So we're going to understand a little bit more about these three gunas. So what was the single word on today's poster? For 13th chapter, it was attorney. What was, or rather the two words on today's poster? Bars. These are the bars of the jail cell. The jail cell for us has three bars: Sattvagun, Rajagun, and Tamagun. So we have to break free of all three bars, including Sattvagun. So let us look at what exactly Krishna is going to advise Arjuna here as it relates to the three gunas. So the difference between Atma and Paramatma has been described by the Lord in the 13th chapter. The question is then, if the Atma is originally Satchidananda, then why is it experiencing the suffering? So Krishna says it is because of the three gunas. What are these three gunas and how does it influence us? And what if I cannot come out from the influence of gunas? What do I do? Is there any help for me? What if on my own I cannot come out from the influence of the gunas? So that is what we're going to look at today. The three modes, which is the three gunas, how the three gunas are actually competing with each other to dominate you, the different activities and actions under the influence of the three gunas, and finally Krishna is going to give you the solution on how you can overcome all three gunas. So we're going to go straight to the 9th shloka here, where Krishna is saying, Sattvam sukhe sanjayati rajah karmani bharata jnanamavritya tuttamaha pramade sanjayatyuta. O son of Bharata, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness. Passion conditions one to fruitive action. And ignorance, covering one's knowledge, binds one to madness. So in this particular shloka, Krishna has talked about the three gunas and the effect that the three gunas have on you. What is Krishna saying? Sattvagun, it influences your state of mind, and generally it keeps you in a happy state. So the next question you'll have is, okay, what's wrong with Sattvagun? Doesn't everybody deserve to be happy? Isn't that why we are all here? We are all searching for happiness. Something must be missing in our life that we're searching for. But Krishna is saying the mode of goodness conditions you to happiness. So what does it mean, conditions you to happiness? That means Krishna is saying this is problematic. Similarly, Rajagun, Krishna says, conditions you to just work hard. And ignorance, it just completely covers your knowledge. And therefore, you're not even in the proper state of mind. You may think you're normal, but actually you're quite crazy. You're mad. You're under illusion. So what's wrong with happiness? What's wrong with chasing desires? Definitely, I think all of us can agree something is terribly wrong if you're under the influence of tamogun. Because nobody wants to be called mad or delusional. But it seems to be quite all right if you have to work hard for a living. Why not? After all, you have a family to feed. You have desires that you want to fulfill. You studied so hard for 20 years. What's wrong in fulfilling some of your material desires? And what's wrong if you can be permanently happy here? Well, that's just a simple problem, right? If you're in prison and you're happy to stay in prison, definitely People will call you mad. Just because you have a nice prison cell, that doesn't mean you're not suffering. So that means even Sattvagun is not good for you, because even Sattvagun keeps you locked up in prison. It's just you think you're out of trouble. You're not. You could be in trouble in any minute here. So let us look at a family that is under the influence of Sattvagun. So let us say there is a husband and wife with 2 young children. The husband is a doctor. They decided that they want to, as much as possible, help those who are needy, especially those who are poor, who cannot afford healthcare. So they have a little clinic in their village. Although he could have gone to the city and earned a lot of money, he could have sent his kids to, elite schools. But they make a conscious decision to live in a smaller town for much smaller salary. They live a simple life. They have a garden and the wife grows some vegetables and flowers. The children are happy. They go to the temple every day. These people are certainly leading a sattvic life. They are also vegetarians. So they visit the temple, they keep things simple, and therefore they are quite happy. But is that happiness sufficient? We'll find out what Krishna says. What about a family that is under the influence of Rajagun? Husband and wife are working professionals. They are both highly qualified. They like the idea of earning a lot of money, getting promoted. They decide that part of their goals is twice a year they need to go on an international trip for a vacation. The children must study in elite schools. They must have the best of everything. They have a cook, they have a maid, they have all the gadgets that they need. But they are stressed out. But they are perfectly okay with handling that stress, because after all, without that stress, they cannot make as good money. So they're ready to sacrifice their own peace of mind for the sake of financial gains. This is living under the influence of Rajagun. In the sense, you are compromising your own health for the sake of a larger bank balance, for the sake of satisfying various desires, going on international vacations, wearing, branded clothing, jewelry, the latest of the gadgets. This is actually a very active family. Well, it's not that they're doing anything wrong. They're not violating the law. They're just busy. So this is living under the influence of Rajagun. What about Tamogun? Well, in this family, the couple can barely meet ends. They are under tremendous stress. Both of them are addicted to drugs and alcohol. And when they run out of money, they sell drugs. They do illegal things. They're always fighting with each other. But they still think, hey, this is a normal life. We're quite happy with this. We're satisfied. Actually, they don't know what is right or wrong. But they've convinced themselves that this is it. So there may be even physical violence in this relationship, but it seems to be acceptable. So this is leading a life of tamogun. So where are we? We have to ask ourselves. Maybe a little bit of this, little bit of that, little bit of that. We may not be fully in one category. We may be a mixed of this. So let's just look at this table here. So if you look at these three gunas and look at just a few facets here, we're looking at books, job, time of the day, and food. So a person under the influence of sattva gun would certainly be interested in reading biographies, non-fiction primarily. Because non-fiction generally should not agitate your mind. So the books that do not agitate your mind, you could say, are sattvic in nature. Whereas someone who is under the influence of Rajagun, what kind of books would they prefer? You know, fantasy, fiction, maybe romance, horror movies, something that keeps them on the seat's edge, you know? Something that is not predictable, something that excites them. So these kind of books or movies would really be enticing to someone who's under the influence of Rajagun. For Tamagun, we need not even ask websites that are banned, that have objectionable content, places that cater to alcohol, gambling. These places and content would really satisfy somebody under the influence of Tamogun. Okay, typically, what would be the nature of the job that someone would hold? An ideal job for someone who's under the influence of Sattvagun would be to be a teacher, because considered to be a great profession to teach. Whereas somebody who is under the influence of Rajagun, for them, money is very important. So important that it becomes intoxicatingly important. You know, money is honey. It can do anything. It can buy you anything and everything. And for those who are under the influence of Tamogun, they may be involved in works that are equally difficult in society. You know, it's not that alcohol is banned in many countries. It's very much considered legal. But still, there are big companies that sell alcohol. They produce alcohol. They manufacture alcohol. Of course, illegal drugs are also being traded and peddled across borders. The time of the day for somebody who is under the influence of Sattvagun is early morning, from 4 a.m. up until noon. That portion of the day is considered Sattvic. From 12 noon, when the sun is right above you, to around 8 o'clock at night, it is considered very Rajasic. So that's the time of the day when everybody is active, running around, doing this, doing that, etc. And then from early night to early morning, when it's normal for the rest of the Jivatmas to get some rest and sleep, such people will be awake. Yeah. So even to students, this is a request. Yeah, okay, during exam times, you may be awake late night and wake up at ungodly hours. But generally, it is not recommended to sleep at a late hour. Better to wake up early and go to bed early as well. Therefore, if you want to chant, because throughout these sessions we have been stressing chanting the holy names of the Lord. The Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. The mantra is so powerful, it will eliminate all sins. But the mantra is even more powerful when it is chanted early morning. It gives you a lot of energy when you do your sadhana in the early morning hours. So we should commit to our chanting, whatever rounds that we have committed to, we should try our best to do it, before 12 noon. I would say before 8 a.m. actually. Because after that, many of us are busy with our work, our schedules, so many other distractions will be there. So the minute your mind gets distracted, then the mantra is also not very effective. So it's better to chant your rounds early in the morning. Whatever it is, you've committed to do 2 rounds, then you should do 2 rounds early in the morning. What about food? Sattvic food is completely vegetarian. There is no tamasic or rajasic element in it. So anything that is tamasic is anything that is spoiled or rotten or untouchable. Anything that is rajasic, it is that it is too spicy, it is too hot, it is too salty, it is too bitter. So this is although Krishna will go deeper into detail in the 17th chapter about the three gunas and how it influences one's faith, one's worship, the type of charity that we give, the type of austerities that we keep, the type of yajnas that we perform. Krishna will talk in detail in the 17th chapter about the three gunas. Specifically, he will talk about the asura bhav, demoniac nature. So there were a gang of 3 thieves who were roaming around their forest. Their only job was to accost the travelers who were crossing the forest and deprive them of their jewelry and their wealth. So here these 3 thieves were roaming around the forest and they found their candidate to rob. And they robbed him, took away all his jewelry and all of his precious things. So the first thief said, you know what? Let's kill him. We've got what we wanted from him, but let's kill him because if he's set free, he may be the cause of our being arrested. Better to just kill him. Nobody will miss him. We've got what we needed. Let us share the loot among the 3 of us. So that's what the first person said. The second person said, is it really necessary to kill this person? We've anyway got what we wanted from him. We've got the wealth. We'll anyway share it among the 3 of us. Let's just tie him up. The third person didn't say anything. So they thought, okay, the majority won. 2 of them said, let's tie him up. The first person said, okay, fine, let's not kill him. So they tied up this poor soul in the forest. They took the wealth, they split it 3 ways, and they separated. The third person, who had not commented, he took the wealth home. He enjoyed himself. Then he felt guilty about this man that they tied up in the forest and left him. I mean, what's the difference between killing somebody and tying him up in the forest? Pretty much the same thing. So he thought, okay, let me go untie this poor man, So he goes back into the forest. He unties this person who they had robbed from. And he tells him, I'm so sorry, but we desperately needed that wealth. I will take you out of the forest and I will also show you how you can get home. So that's what the third person did. To which the person who was robbed said, I am so happy that you came back to save my life. Please come to my house and please visit us. Imagine inviting the person who has robbed you to your home, because you're so grateful they came back and tried to save you. No? So the robber said, no, that's okay. You please go your own way. So certainly the person who suggested that this person be killed was under the influence of Tamogun, because he did not care for the value of life of others. I mean, let alone understanding what is right and wrong. The person who said tie him up, he thought, okay, I'm happy with the wealth that I got, but I don't want to be the cause of unnecessary suffering to others. As long as I got what I wanted, I'm okay. So he said, let's tie him up. The person who came back to release the man, thought, okay, I'm okay with getting the wealth, but I'm certainly not happy with anybody being tied up or unnecessary distress being caused. You could say such a person may have been under the influence of Sattvagun. But you see, the gunas are so intricate. Krishna warns us that they form like a network, and pretty soon they bind you very tightly. It is not that one guna is dominating you all the time. It is possible. You can bring yourself to the stage of Sattvagun. But most of us, we are experiencing all three gunas. We may get up early in the morning. We may be under the influence of Sattvagun, but by the time noon has come around, we're all running around, trying to please our bosses, trying to take care of the house. So many different things we're busy with. And some of us may be staying up late at night because we couldn't get a whole lot of things done during the daytime. So you can see how within our lives, the three gunas are influencing us constantly. So, but the best way to come to Sattvagun state is to at least change your sleeping habits and your waking habits. And we thought we'll have a 21-day challenge for you to test how many of you are ready to take this challenge. So I have a poll here. So I'm going to roll this poll out. I can find it. Yes. So this 21-day challenge will start after we finish the 18-day sessions. Okay. So 18 plus 21 is how much? 39. Do you know what a mandala is? A mandala is 48 days. Our shastras say anything that you do for 48 days straight will become a good habit for you. So we're not doing a mandala, but we're doing 21-day challenge. So you can say 39 if you include the 18 days that you appeared every day. So we will let you know all the details shortly. Remember, Sattvagun means you're trying your best to do the right thing. Yes. Tamogun means you don't understand the difference between right and wrong. So I am sure many of you will do your best to come for early morning chanting. We're only asking for half an hour, 5:45 to 6:15. You come and chant a couple of rounds. There's some harikatha, do a little shloka, and then you're ready for the day. So I'm going to take you up on this. So this 21-day challenge will start soon. And along with that challenge of coming early morning, at least for just half an hour, we will encourage you to start doing some Tulsi worship at home and maybe also keep Ekadasi fast. Hear a short class every day. Before you go to bed, read just one shloka of the Bhagavad Gita. Just one shloka you can read. So we'll have this 21-day challenge. So how many of you have responded? Not all of you have responded. There are 46 of us, but I don't see 46 replies. What happened? You cannot see the poll? There's only 20 of you who have responded, right? 23. So you can respond to the poll. I will keep it open. We'll try. It's a good thing. We're happy to call you and wake you up. Are you ready for that? Because sometimes if you get called by some stranger, you may just pick up the phone and say, oh yeah, I'm supposed to wake up and join the morning session. But seriously, we're ready to call you and wake you up and say, come join the class. We're ready to give you a reminder WhatsApp message to say, wake up, come and join, do your chanting. We want to help you succeed in this 21-day challenge. Yes. So let's continue with what Krishna is saying about the gunas. What is Krishna saying? Because of being very self-satisfied, he does not obey the orders of the Supreme Soul. Oh, so this is a problem with people in Sattvagun. What is the problem? Because you're so happy that everything is going perfectly fine in your life, you don't feel the need to obey the Lord. That is why Krishna was using the word conditioned. Sattvagun conditions you to happiness. You're so happy being happy, you will not strive and ask the simple questions. Okay, so what if I'm happy? How long is this going to last? What is the purpose of my life? Why was I born? Why are others suffering? Even if I'm not suffering for, if I think I'm not suffering, why are others suffering? So Sattva Gun is not something that is conducive for you to go to the spiritual world. Sattva Gun simply says, I want to stay out of trouble, but I will stay in this jail only. I don't want to become free. See how powerful Maya Devi is. She convinces you that if you're happy, why do you want to leave this jail? You can stay here forever. That is the problem with Sattvagun. It conditions you to being where you are simply because you think you're not being troubled. But you don't understand the actual real trouble is birth and death. But you think until I die, if I'm happy, I'm pretty good with it. You're not thinking beyond this body. You're not thinking what's going to happen to me in my next life. Who am I going to be? Am I going to be free? With Rajagun, Krishna is saying, because of being extremely passionate about his desires, he can't hear the Paramatma. In the sense, your desires are so loud, you can't hear the voice of Paramatma within you, telling you, hey, what are you doing? How much money is enough money? Tamogun, because of being very lazy and ignorant, he does not hear the Paramatma. Because he's completely lost. So this is the nature of the three gunas. So Krishna is saying in the 10th shloka, Rajastamascha vibhuya sattvam bhavati bharata rajas sattvam tamaschaiva tamas sattvam rajas tatha. Sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance, O son of Bharata. Sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance, and at other times, ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way, there is always competition for supremacy. So these three bars of the jail cell have tightly kept you here. So the gunas are competing with each other to dominate you. So the gunas are always trying to influence you. The best you can do is figure out how to control these gunas. Even a simple thing as the kind of food that you eat, it determines your energy level for the rest of the day. It determines your mood for the rest of the day. A simple thing like food. Now, how do you identify which guna you are under the influence of? We saw some examples. But is that all? So when we are under the influence of sattva guna, the good thing about it is that at least you try to do the right thing. So when the influence of sattva guna increases, then slowly a portion of you is getting cleansed inside and out, not because you're doing spiritual practices, simply because you're happy with yourself. So you tend to do the right things, hear the right things, etc. But nobody is predominantly under the influence of Sattva Guna, certainly not in Kali. So when the influence of Rajaguna increases, then what happens is your desires are endless. You may think, okay, if I buy this house, I will be happy. Then after that, some other desire comes and you're chasing that, and some other desire and you're chasing that. So you're always concocting something to keep yourself busy because you're trying to achieve something material. So hence Krishna says Rajagun traps you in a network of desires. And he says thousands of networks of desires. That is the danger of Rajagun. That means there is no end to our sense gratification. When Tamogun influences you and it increases, then of course you're leading a very degraded life. There is no sense of discipline, rules, regulations, right, wrong. You're completely living in a confused state of mind. You don't have a purpose. You do things very whimsically just because. So this is the danger of Tamogun, where it is your body that is most important to you, and anything and everything else is not important. So if we want to reduce the effects of these gunas, then we certainly should not be adding more fuel to the fire, right? If you add more fuel to the fire and think that the fire will burn out, then we are wrong. So at best, what we should do is we should try and observe what guna is influencing us and try to distance ourselves from that influence. So try to stop ourselves from doing those activities. Simply stopping ourselves means we can save ourselves from a lot of trouble. Then Krishna uses this important word urdhvam, which the theme will carry over into chapter 15. Urdhvam gacchanti sattvastha madhye tishtanti rajasaha jaghanya gunavrittastha adho gacchanti tamasaha. Now Krishna is telling you what is the destination for you. See, after you give up this body, you're going somewhere else, right? The soul is going to go somewhere else. If it is under the influence of these three gunas, it has to get its next destination, its next body. So Krishna is telling us clearly what happens. Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. So what's your destination? You're still very much in this cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease, except you go to the upper planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets. See, if you want to fulfill your desires, you will be sent to what's called the Martyaloka, the planetary systems where you can satisfy your desires, but there will be happiness and distress throughout your life. If you go to the upper planetary systems, you will experience extreme happiness, very little distress or no distress at all. If you go to the lower planetary systems, you will experience extreme distress, zero happiness. So this Martya Loka is considered to be even. You experience a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Can you imagine if you experience only happiness? You will have no purpose. You will never ask yourself, why? Because you're not suffering, you'll never ask, why am I suffering? Will you ask if you're in heaven and say you've occupied a position of a devata? Will you ask yourself, who am I and why am I here? Why am I suffering? That question will never even arise because you're so happy. That is dangerous. Why is it dangerous? Because when your credits exhaust, you have to come back to the earthly planets again and take birth again. Now, if you go to the lower planetary system, there is so much suffering, you can't even think of what the heck is Sattva Gun and what is spirituality. Because you can't tolerate that suffering. Therefore, Krishna is saying all three gunas you have to overcome. So, whatever activities we are undertaking today, we are preparing ourselves for the next life. We are already determining which body we are going to take. Since you yourself are making a decision on which body you are going to take, then certainly we have to be responsible about the choices that we make in our life. Because if we don't get this right, then we may degrade into a lower body. So we go into Srimad Bhagavatam, the 11th canto, the 20th chapter, the 17th shloka. Nredeham adyam sulabham sudurlabham plavam sukalpam guru karnadharam mayanukulena nabhasvateritam puman bhavadbhim nataret sa atmaha. Atmaha means spiritual suicide. The human body, which can award all benefit in life, is automatically obtained by the laws of nature, although it is a very rare achievement. So human body is very rare. Not everybody gets a human body. This human body can be compared to a perfectly constructed boat, having the spiritual master as the captain, and the instructions of the personality of Godhead as favorable winds, impelling it on its course. Considering all these advantages, a human being who does not utilize his human life to cross the ocean of material existence must be considered the killer of his own soul. If you're not interested in going back to Krishna, then you are committing atmaha, spiritual suicide. This human birth is a vehicle that is perfectly created for you to go back to the spiritual world. And the captain of that boat is your spiritual master. And the sails and the wind are the instructions of the Supreme Body. So this is how precious human life is. So it is coming directly from another scripture that we hold in high regard, which is the Srimad Bhagavatam, the pastimes of the Lord. Right? So don't think that your soul is not important. Your soul does not want all the wealth in the world. Your soul does not want all the comforts in your home. Your soul is simply yearning for Krishna. So the minute the soul is connected to Krishna, it has started its journey. So death is not the end of suffering. It will continue to the next journey from this journey. So let's get on the right flight back to God's own country, to Goloka, right? So if we do want to go back to the Supreme Lord, then we should ask ourselves, why do I want to be in golden handcuffs in this material world? Even a golden handcuff is a handcuff. So you could say the Sattva Guna is a golden handcuff, Rajaguna is a silver handcuff, and Tamoguna is an iron handcuff. A handcuff is a handcuff. You are still a prisoner here. It doesn't matter if you are in a prison with gold bars. You're still a prisoner. So all of us already have a ticket to climb onto that flight. It is just we are waiting for something. We don't realize the flight is there ready to leave. You have the ticket because you are already occupying a human form. You just have to perform bhakti. So what is Krishna saying here? Gunanetanatītyatrin dehi dehas samudbhavan janma mrityujjara dukkhaihi vimukto mritamashnute. When the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes associated with the material body, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses and can enjoy nectar even in this life. So Krishna is saying, you can enjoy this kind of unending happiness in this life itself, preparing yourself to go back to the spiritual world simply by overcoming the influence of these three modes. So how do you actually come to the Shuddha Sattva state? So there is Tamogun, Rajagun, and Sattvagun. And beyond Sattvagun is called Shuddha Sattva state, the mode of pure goodness. So as long as we have desires, then we have to rotate in this cycle of Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Manaram, Jatare Shayanam, like that. So Krishna is giving us the solution. What is the solution? Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So Krishna is telling you how to cross over this ocean of suffering. You just have to do devotion service. So this is a clear definition by Krishna on what you need to do. Krishna is saying, Bhakti yogena sevate, not karma yogena sevate, not jnana yogena sevate, not dhyana yogena sevate. What takes you back to Krishna is to perform devotional service. And how do we perform devotional service? It begins with chanting, hearing, having prasadam at least once a day. If you can't cook some bhoga for the Lord that is acceptable to the Lord once a day, then at least once a week, but not less frequent than that. Actually, all three meals, if you're having 3 meals, all 3 meals should be prasadam only for you. That is full devotion service. I mean, so what? We've enjoyed having so many unmentionable things for so many years. Why we can't give it up for Krishna? Right? So Krishna is clearly here saying, only Bhakti Yoga will help you cross over this ocean. So we should chant our fixed rounds, we should honor prasadam, we should take these small steps, and step by step, if we do sadhana bhakti, as Krishna talked about in chapter 12, keeping our Ekadashi Vrat twice a month, worshipping Tulsi Devi every day, then we can come to the Shuddha Sattva state. So let us look at some questions and characters. Should we stay in Sattvagun, or is there something beyond it? So now we have understood clearly that Sattvagun also is a jail cell. It's just a better jail cell than Rajagun and Tamagun. So Karna could have also been a great personality had it not been for his constant association with the wrong people and his attachment to the wrong characters. So it is not that Karna had only bad qualities, he had so many good qualities. But because of bad association and bad attachment, he failed. So you can have good qualities, but still end up on the wrong side. But even if you're angry, like Hanumanji, because he was offering his anger in the service of the Lord, this kind of anger isn't Shuddha Sattva state. It is pure goodness. Because he was doing it as a service to the Lord and to also send a warning. to Ravana. There is even something that is in pure state of goodness when apparently you act like you're mad, which is the case of Jadabharat. In his previous birth, he was a deer. Before that, he was King Bharat. He really did not want to mess up this life, and therefore he pretended to be dumb so that nobody would disturb him and he could continue practicing his Krishna consciousness. So he couldn't care what the external world thought of him. So to the external world, he looked like an avadut, a madman. But he was perfectly self-realized. And therefore he is able to preach to the king, Rahugana. So the king also thought, here is a madman. What is he doing? He is not even carrying my palanquin properly. He was hopping up and down, trying not to step on the ants. And the king got irritated and said, what kind of stupid fool are you? Do you not know how to carry a palanquin? Rahugana said, I was just trying to avoid stepping on the ants. I don't want to kill them. And this intrigued the king. And the king thought, oh, I thought you were dumb, but I now realize you're a self-realized man. So hence, King Rahugana asked questions and he got those answers from Jadabharat. So see, externally you may see the other person being in supposedly tamogun, totally mad. But you don't realize that some people cover it up because they don't want to be disturbed. So Jadabharat is also in a pure state of goodness. And so was Hanuman, and both of them are great devotees of the Lord. Yeah. So we have concluded our session on the three bars, the three gunas that are holding us here. And Krishna is going to come back in chapter 15 and tell us how to actually get out of this jail. He's given you a hint here. He said, do devotional service. But in case you're not ready to listen to Krishna, he is going to give you other options in chapter 15. Chapter 15 is also a very short chapter. It has only 20 shlokas like chapter 12. But it is very important chapter for us. It is called Purushottama Yoga. So for those who want to follow the traditional path of going back to Krishna through Jnana Yoga or through Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha route, then Krishna will tell you how to do it. But then he will also give you a warning saying, if you get too caught up in Dharma, Artha, Kama, then again you will be lost. So it's a very nice chapter. It begins with the analogy of a banyan tree and the upside down banyan tree. And Krishna will use that banyan tree analogy to tell us what is wrong with our perceptions and how the gunas are actually influencing us to accept that which is false as truth and vice versa, which causes our whole set of illusions for us, which keeps us here in this material planet. So any questions on this 14th chapter on the three gunas? Okay. Is karma accumulated solely in the middle planetary systems? How does our accumulated karma decrease when we are in higher planetary systems? You also accumulate karma in the upper planetary systems. Because as long as you're engaged in actions and activities, some karma is there, right? But the likelihood of you doing something wrong in the upper planetary systems is a little less. Because if you're going to the upper planetary systems, it's because you are in the Sattva Gun. It doesn't mean that karma has no influence in the upper planetary systems, or even for that matter in the lower planetary systems, because you're being so severely punished. But generally, you will accumulate your maximum karma for sure in the middle planetary systems because you experience the duality of happiness and distress. Yeah. And that makes you work even harder. And because you're trying to convince yourself, no, if I work a little harder, I'll be happy. So that's also the trap in the middle planetary systems. Okay, very nice question. Thank you. Does your karma decrease when you're in the higher planetary systems? No, the way karma is awarded is that you get a 50-50 share. Whatever balance you have, 50%, if you have pious credits, you will be given an opportunity to enjoy those 50% pious credits. Then if you have your sinful collections, you will have to take care of that also. But you'll be able to do it sequentially. So you can't go to the upper planetary systems and have both enjoyment and suffering, because the upper planetary systems is designed for enjoyment and not for suffering in the material sense of the word. Yeah, but good question, very intelligent question. Thank you. Pooja, you have a question?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Ma'am, I wanted to know, I've been planning to start reading Bhagavad Gita, but I'm not sure, first, what should I read? Because when last time I had gone to ISKCON, there was one book named Krishna, which had pastimes of Krishna, I guess. So first I should read that or Bhagavad Gita, then Bhagavatam. Like, is there any series, as a beginner, how it should be?
Yes, we do have. Actually, we'll introduce a program called the Bhakti Steps. Once we finish this 18-day program, there is a sequence in which you read the books to help you get ready to read the Bhagavad Gita in more detail. Yeah.
Okay.
So please wait
And
for.
ma'am, where do we store this? Yes, sure, I'll wait. And where do we store these books? Like, do we have to wrap it in red cloth, or like how we have heard, or where, like, we can keep it in the cupboard in a bedroom, or it should be in the temple, like where it should be kept?
Ideally, your holy book should not be in the bedroom.
Okay.
Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, these can be in the puja room if you have a shelf there, or you can make a nice shelf where they are maintained. Otherwise, you can keep it in the living room.
Okay, fine, ma'am. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
But then these days, everything is digital, right? You can open your phone and the Bhagavad Gita is there as you're lying in bed.
Yeah, but I have seen my mother reading, so I just want to do that. It was in my mind, like.
Yeah, I would say not to worry too much about it. If you're interested in reading, just pick up the book and read. That is more important for you to read than to worry about the location of the book.
Yeah. Right. Thank you,
Very
ma'am.
nice.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Pooja. Hare Krishna. Any other questions on today's chapter? Okay. If there are no further questions, we'll see you tomorrow. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Shri Gauranga ki jai. Thank you very much, devotees. Have a wonderful
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna. Thank you. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Dandavat pranam.
Namaskar, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.